Welcome, friends. Is there anyone else that needs to be placed into the Portuguese room? You could just speak up and I can place you in that breakout room. Okay, wonderful. I know that we are supposed to broadcast tonight, and I think that we need Raphael for that. So um, we are ready? Oh, wonderful. Excellent. Okay, then let's get started. So let's open ourselves in prayer, closing our eyes and opening our heart, feeling the presence of our good friend Jesus here with us, and feeling the presence of our guardian angel and all of the good spirits who are here with us tonight, blessing this lesson, blessing this time spent in circle together in a virtual space, but with connected hearts, with the intention to find illumination within ourselves and to learn more about the path to self-illumination. We know that when we seek the light finds us and we find the light inside of us. So may we open ourselves for the light within us that never dies to shine so brightly that it involves our thoughts, our feelings, and our entire spirit. Let us listen with light, speak with light, and process the information that the good spirits allow us to receive with light in our hearts. May God bless every single one of us tonight. For this we give thanks. So it is. So it is. So welcome everyone to our public meeting tonight. So excited that you are here and just wanted to let those of you know who may be here for the first time or maybe joining us from another location that even though we are virtual, you can ask questions at any time. You can use the chat. You can just unmute yourself and speak up. So at any time, that is always welcome. And then also just to let you know that we'll have a virtual class at the end of our talk tonight. So you'll have the opportunity to have some water magnetized and blessed. So make sure you have some water nearby. So our topic tonight is the path to self-illumination. And we probably should first ask ourselves, well, what is illumination? Sometimes we hear a word and we think we know what it means, but it's good to look it up and see what does the dictionary say. And according to our dictionary, it says that illumination is a source of light. And it also means enlightened. And enlightened means a state in which an individual transcends desire and suffering and attains this elevated state. And it is also a concept in spirituality relating to achieving like a clarity of perception and reason and knowledge. And so this is a desired state, of course, for all of us. And it is also something that I would like us to think about in the context of the work that we do for our charity, because we always want to make sure that whatever work that we are doing in this world, including our charity work, is done from this place of illumination. And so when we think about this path to illumination, right, there's this idea that it is arduous, right? And it's difficult for anyone that is attached to a material lifestyle. And you know, this word arduous, it's kind of a kind of a big word, right? It just means super difficult, right? And it also feels like it's a word that means without end, right? But what makes it difficult is the level of attachment that we have to our material plane. And the perception of spiritual life and its consequences makes it possible for this journey to be less painful and sacrificial. And that illumination is to have an awareness of eternity and divine presence within us. And so let's think about this for a minute. So, in the Living Spring, chapter 3, it talks about this great journey that is to find the light within us. And I'm reminded of this story, when I was in seminary, when we learned about Judaism, the current tradition of the Jewish faith in modern times. There's a story of the menorah, which is this candlestick that has like 8 candles and then one big candle in the middle. And the story of this menorah is that when the Jews were attacked during these ancient times, one of their temples was completely, obliterated into rubble. There was nothing left of this temple. It was burned to the ground. So there was just ashes. But one of the rabbis went and looked through the ashes and found this one vial of oil that didn't get destroyed. And that vial of oil was only enough for like light for one day, like light a lamp, because they did not have electricity in that time. So that one vial of oil was only enough to light for one day. But this miracle happened, and there was enough light in or enough oil in that vial to last for all 8 days. And so that's what their tradition behind that kind of candle that has the 8 candles and the one in the middle of the menorah, which is what they do during Hanukkah. But here's why this is a powerful story, because there's something in each of the world's traditions, stories, and legends that is for us if we look for the light in it. And the power behind this legend for them is that one vial remained untouched despite the destruction that was taking place around it. And that vial contained enough light for more days than they thought possible. So the Jews took this to mean and take this to mean in modern day Judaism that each one of us has this vial of light within us that can never be extinguished, no matter how much destruction takes place around us, no matter how arduous and difficult the path is, right? No matter how painful the journey is, we have this light within us that is never destroyed. Ever. And we know this in Spiritism to be the eternal light of our soul, that our soul or our spirit in its purest sense is a point of light. So this path of illumination is really this awareness of our eternal nature, of that vial of oil within us that can light far beyond what the mind can conceive, and to be aware of this divine presence within us. And I would also add that it is seeing this in others. And so when we think about approaching our daily life, when we think about approaching our loved ones, when we think about approaching our work, when we think about approaching our charity work, to do that from that place of light within us and to actively search for and seek that light in others. This is the beginning now of this path to illumination for us. And when we think about this journey, we seem to think it's this long journey, this highway of eternal suffering, but it's not that. And neither is this a bed of roses, right? It's this journey that is shaped by our ongoing choices. It is our choices that shape our path, right? And each person, each one of us, our path differs according not just to the choices, of course, but also to our merits and our past actions, because depending on the amount of merit, the amount of good we have done, the amount of goodwill that we have sown, and the number of spiritual friends that are assisting us, our path can be shaped differently. But it always begins and ends with our choices at any given moment, regardless of what is happening around us. And like we talked about in Bottom Life a couple of weeks ago, there's always that space between the situation and the stimulus and then the response, right? We always have that opportunity to think right to left as to how we will respond. That's that space of enlightenment where we decide to make a choice. We decide to make a choice, and then the choice that we make is going to determine just how painful our path is. Now, it's not going to be possible for us to have a path that is entirely without pain. That is not possible. But we can certainly reduce the amount of intense suffering that we have based on making choices that are not producing more debt or making choices that are not producing more suffering for ourselves. And also, we have to remember this when we are, as I like to say, drinking judgment soup, right? This is when we observe the path that others are walking, and then we have all sorts of narratives about it. We have all sorts of opinions about it. And if we're not careful, we will become so wrapped up in charting the path of other people's journey that we get lost on our own. So we have to be very careful and realize that we're all on a different path. Or sometimes even we may do it the other way around. We look and say, oh, that person seems to have it so easy. They don't have any problems. But remember, we usually, when we make these judgments, we make an evaluation of what we see in another person's experience. We tend to judge our insides against their outsides, forgetting that we are all so good at wearing masks. You know, Anna Paula last week was in teaching on the No Solar book, talked about wearing masks, right? Or no, it was 50 years later, talked about wearing masks, how there's a character in the book 50 years later, Hecteria, that was very humble looking on the outside, but inside, you know, she had a lot of deception and a lot of deceit. And so we never know what other people's paths are. So it's really quite best for us to study our own path. It's really quite a good use of our own time to really make sure we're not getting lost. And if we're too busy looking where somebody else is going or pointing out the stumbling block that someone else has in their path, we're quite likely to stumble on our own. And it's also important to remember this idea of mistaken perception. We never have all of the data. We just don't. We never have the whole story. We don't understand what has happened up to a person's experience. We don't understand what they're dealing with inside. We don't understand what they are expiating. We don't understand what they are cleaning. We don't know. And many times we make decisions on the path that people are taking based on our limited perception, based on judgment, usually based on our own internal perception of what we think they're going through. And that's a mistaken perception, right? In Buddhism, Thich Nhat Hanh, one of my favorite teachers, you will hear me talk about him a lot. He says that we operate so much on mistaken perceptions that it would be good for us to write 3 letters in beautiful calligraphy and frame them and hang them in every wall of our home. And those 3 words are you sure? Question mark. Because we very rarely know. So what we can be sure about is what we need to do. What we can be sure on is that walking our own walk and shaping our own journey and illuminating our own life is definitely for sure our work to do.
Hey, Kara, did you stop sharing?
Uh, Maybe I did. Let's see. I'm glad you said that.
Just checking because nothing is showing as sharing.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Are you all able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you spoke up. I would have just kept going and wouldn't have known. Thank you, Marcia.
It was beautiful to hear you, but good to know they're showing something.
Yes, this was the slide that I was speaking to before. That's funny. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what is needed when we think about we're going to start walking this path of illumination? What's needed? So some of the things that self-illumination have and some of the things that self-illumination requires having confidence in ourselves, to live without resentment and without unnecessary attachments and demands on people. Now, to me, that sentence alone is like a whole book. If we really think about it, we unpack what each one of those means, because just starting with having confidence in ourselves Many times we ascribe or we project onto other people the ill feelings, the poor feelings, the lack of confidence we have in ourselves, and then we don't have confidence in other people, or we have a low opinion of ourselves. And so then we project that onto other people, or we don't really have high expectations of ourselves. And so then we constantly judge other people based on our low expectations of ourselves. So having confidence in ourselves, this is understanding, like we talked about in this earlier slide. Thank you, Marcia, for letting me know you couldn't see it, right? Is understanding this illumination is to have an awareness of the eternity and divine presence within us. When we understand that we have that inner light, then having confidence begins to be a little easier. It's never going to be without work. But when we remember and when we guide our thoughts towards remembering that we carry this light within us, this helps us in our left to right process of knowing, well, should I have confidence in myself? Because that's a decision that we make based on input, and we have that space to make that choice. And to live without resentment. I once heard someone say that when we are resentful, right? So sentiment is like feeling, right? That's the root word, like sentient, it's feeling. So this prefix re means to do something again. So resentment means that you're feeling something again and again and again. So when we are resentful of someone or something, then that means that we have a bad feeling about it. And we have that bad feeling again and again and again. And it takes energy to produce those bad feelings again and again. And the danger in resentment is if we do something again and again and again, we build something. That something is called a habit. And when we build a habit successfully over repetitive consistency, then what happens? It becomes unconscious and we do it without actively thinking. Thus is the danger. So we must be very, very cautious about feeling resentment, right? And resentment usually starts with irritation. So we have to be watchful when something irritates us, because that's the little feeling of dislike or disapproval or disappointment. And the word dis or the prefix dis means to miss something. So disappointment is like we miss appointment, right? Dislike is like we miss liking something, right? Discomforting means like we miss comfort. So if we're constantly experiencing discomfort, dislike, disappointment, look at all we are missing out, right? And these are the things that preclude resentment. So if we are thoughtful and introspective and reflective of even the words that we use when we have thoughts, and listen to what those words mean, we can begin to be more careful about how we are programming ourselves and look for places we are blocking the light within us. And unnecessary attachments and without demands on people, these unnecessary attachments and demands on people are often where we expect from others what we are ourselves not able or willing to produce. And so part of releasing unnecessary attachments and demands on people is to look at really, well, what are the necessary attachments? I mean, I can't even think of one. If anyone can think of a necessary attachment, please put it in the chat. I would love to know, or speak it out. Cannot think of one necessary attachment. I don't know what we should try and attach to in this life, because it's so transitory. Even this body that we temporarily occupy, this body that is not ours, that was a gift and a loan from our Heavenly Father. There's nothing we can really attach to, right? That we can only exist here and try and transform. And if we're doing that, then we find that there are very few demands that we make on people. And the more we illuminate from within, that one vial of light, that one vial of oil didn't demand anything from the other 8 candles that it had the light. It offered its light. And by offering its light to those 8 other candles for the Jewish menorah, it was able to light them all. Did someone have a question? I wasn't sure if I was hearing someone asking. So also the path of illumination is to walk in the footsteps on the road that is life and on the road that life offers, and choosing to see others as fellow travelers. That is so much more difficult than the simplicity of this statement would imply, because we are so quick to expect more from others than we are willing to give ourselves, as well as we are not often willing to offer the grace to others that we want for ourselves. So when we see others as fellow travelers on this road, on a road that they shaped with their experience that we can't be sure about, right? We have this opportunity to just offer so much grace. And we also, again, thinking about this in our relationships with our loved ones and our family. We're all cooped up together. Many of us who have loved ones that live with us, right? It's really easy to see, oh, I'm so tired of how this person's acting. My son, husband, daughter, mother, father, sister, brother, whatever the relationship is. This familiarity sometimes breeds contempt, and we forget to remember that they are fellow souls, sister souls, brother souls on this journey, and they're fellow travelers. They're trying to figure it out. What if we did this with our colleagues at work? All of us have at least one difficult colleague, right? I mean, work isn't work without that. We all have at least one, a difficult colleague, a difficult boss, someone who we often find ourselves irritated, we feel discomfort. Sometimes they disappoint us, right? All of these words we dislike. That means we miss our appointment with liking them. We miss our appointment with life, right? If we could just see them as fellow travelers, then we're now keeping our own appointment with life. And also when we do our charity work, it's the same thing. We often, for those of us that are engaged still in doing charity work with our brothers and sisters who are suffering, it's also very easy to have a judgment about them, whether you are working with the homeless or whether you volunteer in hospitals or whatever community that you may be working with. It can be very easy for us to judge those souls, forgetting that they are also fellow travelers, right? And the only difference between us and them are a few choices. That's really it. A few choices, a few lifetimes, a few deaths. We don't know. And so since we don't know, spending time trying to figure that out is time that we can be spent illuminating our own path. And illumination is also, it's sharing our life, right? It's placing it at the service of God and of humanity. And when we do this, it's in our favor. And it's also in favor of our neighbor. And that's counterintuitive, right? Because on the one hand, we know to give, and we're taught, right, in Spiritism to be helpful and to give without expecting anything in return, right? But yet we also were taught that any good we do is in our favor. So like, how do you sort that out? Well, I'm here to tell you, I don't know. I don't have that answer. But I do know that until we figure that out, just keep doing the good. Just keep lighting our path, right? To me, we don't have to have all the answers if the simplicity of the work that's in front of us is simply doing the good in favor of humanity. And there's that scripture that says, from Jesus, that the good that you gave the little that you gave to the least of the brothers and sisters, you did to me. And every time you refuse to help the least of your brothers and sisters, you refuse to help me. If we just remember that, right, and know that every little good we do, that we are doing that out of love for the divine, out of love for our friend and Master Jesus, then that makes it easier to not be so judgmental or to be so expectant, because we wouldn't continually be cautioned about expectancy if we didn't have it. This expectancy of reward, this expectancy of recognition, this expectancy of our cup runneth over and the good pressed down, because it says that throughout the Bible, right? Give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, overflowing. So we have to process that, right? And maybe we don't have the answer, but we still keep doing the good and lighting our path and illuminating ourselves. That's the point. And the point of this all, right, is that, life is a gift from God that deserves to be shared with the people around us. And many times those are the ones that we find the hardest to share with. It's that familiarity breeds contempt. It's in our very own homes, our loved ones, that we are often most selfish with our time. And if we are more evolved than that, and we are able to consistently and lovingly and kindly embrace our loved ones in our homes, then perhaps this is our opportunity to do that in the workplace. Or perhaps this is our opportunity, if we're not doing it now, to do that in charity work in the community. Those of you that are local here to the Triangle are probably aware that we have some weekly charity that we're doing, so that's an opportunity. Those of you that are not local to this area, there are always opportunities in every city that you're in to engage in helping others. And doing this from a place of just giving a gift, just because our lives are so precious and it deserves to be given, because this life is a gift from God. It is given to us to share. And the important thing to note here is that what blocks our light is living selfishly. And that makes sense, right? Because if I hold this light inside of me and I cross my arms and refuse to open them and offer whatever I have, well, I'm also covering that light that's within me. And I'm also closing myself off from receiving, because if I remain like this, I'm unable to have my arms open and to receive all of the light that's in the universe that's seeking the very light that's within me, because light will seek light and magnify itself. And this is our job. Our job is to see not just the light within ourselves, but when we see our light and then look in each and every one of us, right? If you just take a minute, I mean, most of us don't have our video on, there's just names on this screen. But you know that behind the names on this Zoom screen, there's a point of light that is a soul, that is eternal. And we forget that sometimes. We just see the name, or maybe we see a picture. We see a two-dimensional representation, forgetting that these are souls. Each one of us are souls. We are travelers on this journey. We're hurting just like you hurt. We're scared like you're scared. We are hungry for love like you're hungry for love. We are searching for peace like you're searching for peace. So if we search for that, and even with names on a screen, or with pictures on a screen, or even with moving pictures on the screen, seeing past all of that and seeing that there's a light inside of each every one of us, that act of searching for the light actually expands our own, because that is the vibration that we are generating and harmonizing, and we will magnify everything that we vibrate in frequency to. That is the law. This is for us to think about what is needed. And from the book Better Days, this is probably one of my all-time favorite Spiritist books. I first found this in the Spiritist Center when we had our building, and I remember picking it up and opening it and being so moved by the first message. And then I just started flipping through it, and every message just stunned me. And so I just love this book. And this is an excerpt from the introduction. And I love to read the introductions to books, because even though many people skip over them, you get so much from an introduction. It tells you why you should read the book and through which lens you should read. And this is the actual introduction to the book Better Days. And he says, bear in mind that the better days of your life on earth will always be, not sometimes, not like most of the time. No, he said, will always be those on which you devote yourselves exclusively to the good of your neighbor, thus forgetting your primary needs without expecting any kind of reward for the efforts you have made in the favor of others. Now, this is the lens through which the author has asked us to read this entire book, Better Days, but it is also, I think, the lens through which we can look at, sometimes we say this so casually. You're like, hey, Bill, how was your day? Hey, Karen, did you have a good day? Hey, Andriana, have a good day. Or Ana Lucia, I hope you have a better day tomorrow than you did today. Or Deborah, was your day today better than it was yesterday? We just are so casual with this, right? Just as my daughter says, regular, degular, right? This is the teens say these funny things. But to really think about, like, what's a better day? A better means an improvement on today. So if we want to have a better day tomorrow than we did today, and we think about collectively, like our days on earth, think about the deathbed, which is really, of course, the life bed. It's the gateway to the spiritual world, right? We call it the deathbed, but it's really the life bed. That if we are on the time of our transition, when we reflect on the days, they say that your life passes before your eyes. It's been said over and over, no one ever reflects on how many shoes they bought. Nobody reflects on how many days they slept in. Nobody reflects on all of the 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 glory you may have gotten, the the people that you know that you envied. Like nobody reflects on that. We reflect on, where did I do any good? What did I make of this life? What good did I do? How many people did I help? How many people will actually care that my body is transitioning? That's what people think about when they're transitioning, right? They think about, what were those days? Those days would be those better days. And so we're all relatively young, but we don't know when the end of this physical life is. So we have the opportunity in our path to self-illumination to produce intentionally some better days. We can do it with that same right to left thinking process. If I'm going to do something, is it going to produce a better day for me? If I make this choice, is it going to produce an outcome that would be in alignment with one of these better days that I might think about towards the end of my life? Will it produce enlightenment? If I do this, do I have a reasonable expectation that the expected outcome would be? Do I have a reasonable expectation that if I think this, say this, do this, act on this, is illumination going to be the end result? We have the capacity to think this. This is not elevated, complex, college educated thinking. I can prove this to you because I did not even graduate high school. I took a test when I was 16 years old and tested out of high school and do not have a college degree. So the very fact that I am talking to you about this proves that this is elementary. Right? This is absolutely elementary. I am of average intelligence. Does not require complex intellectual capacity for us to understand this. The hard part is that without expecting any kind of reward for the efforts we have made. And this is repeated throughout Spiritist literature. This is repeated throughout Andre Louise's books. It's repeated throughout this book. It's repeated throughout the gospel. It's repeated throughout all of the books of the codification of Spiritism. So that should tell us something, because if something's repeated over and over, must be because there's something there. So this is something we can contemplate in our time as we think about how. Yes.
I just want to say something that sometimes when we talk about effort, we think that we need to really do, the exact meaning of effort, like doing something that is going to cost us a lot. But I was just thinking, like, sometimes it's just one email, like a client needs something from you, a coworker needs something from you. And it's just like sometimes the way that you reply the email or taking the time to do this extra favor to someone can bring so much gratitude from this person to you. The person will reply with kindness, and then that little gesture of kindness might be the thing that will be the highlight of your day, or maybe the highlight of your week. So it's just to put this out there for everyone that as we are living our lives, our daily lives, we can always find, the little something, the little message, the little email, the smile that we can give on, to others that will make them happier and will also make us happier.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That reminds me, I love that, Andriata. That reminds me of a quote from John Maxwell, another one of my favorite authors. He's a Christian leadership trainer. And he says, if you see someone without a smile, give them yours. You have extras. Right? And smiles are also so simple, Andriata, right? And there's a whole science of Chinese internal healing. It's called Qigong, that has a whole practice called an inner smile. And that we sit and we literally direct a smile at various internal organs, and it heals those organs. That's a whole energy practice. So please don't underestimate the power of a smile. Smile as much as you can, even if there's nobody there. Just try it. Everybody just smile right now, real quick. Let me see you. Can I get a smile from everybody? A little smile? Okay, good. I can't see you halfway. Oh yeah. Practice. It feels good. It's like it feels good. It feels good. And then it makes everyone around you feel good. I mean, it's an instant feel good. Instant feel good. All right. Makes better days. So then we talk about this path to illumination being simple, but not always easy, because it asks us for three things. One is to speak from the heart. So talk about simple, but not easy. You know, how many of us, I need to think about what I want to say. I need to make sure I get it absolutely right. I'm afraid to say something because I might say the wrong thing. Or if I say this, then they might know how I really feel. We go through so many mental gymnastics in order to avoid speaking from the heart. Do you know how exhausting that is if we really pay attention to that? You know how much mental energy would be available for us to produce better days, to produce choices that would bring us illumination? That all this mental gyrations and hoop jumping so that we avoid speaking from the heart because we worry what people are going to think. And the absolute lunacy of this is that when we do that, people see it. Do we think people can't see that we're going through all these gymnastics? People are not dumb. They can feel the energy. And when we speak from the heart, no matter how uneloquent it is, here's the thing. The experts have said this over and over again. The research has backed this. Nobody remembers what you said. Everybody remembers how you made them feel. Period. The research shows it. But what do? Oh my gosh, I really wish I had said this. We lay in bed at night. We replay conversations. We say how we're going to say it differently. Come on, am I lying? Do we do this? Right? We do this. And that's one of the activities we engage in that becomes a filter for our light. When we speak from the heart, we never have to rethink it again because guess what? It wasn't produced by the brain. It was produced from the heart. We don't ever have to think about it. It's a beautiful practice. And when we do that, it makes it so much easier to understand life compassionately and to act lovingly. See, we're wired to be heart-based. That's how our whole physiology, like the electrical field of the brain has been studied by science, and so has the electrical field of the heart. There's something called heart math. You can look this up. I'm not lying. There's something called the toroidal field. It is an energetic field around the heart that extends farther beyond the body than the electromagnetic field of the brain. The heart really is stronger than the brain. Like really, like science has already shown us that, right? And as proven, you can live when your brain stops, but not when your heart stops. I mean, that's right. So the heart is superior to the brain in every level. So when we operate from that heart space, it is so much easier to like understand life from a compassionate place because then we don't go through all these mental gymnastics of assessing and inventorying people. We just love them and just be compassionate. And then when we're not going through all those mental gyrations that block our light, then we're actually can give that light to others and act lovingly. Right. And that's the peace. That's, we're all saying, oh my God, if I just had some peace, or oh, I just need some peace of mind. We seem to think that we're going to find peace in our mind. That's not where it lives. The peace that we are looking for lives in our that vial of. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think there's also something that I would like to add.
Yes.
We were talking about the heart, and when we see like a baby, when the baby like is very, very, very tiny and small, the first thing that it gets like that forms is the heart. So it's the baby might be like 1 centimeter or something, and then you will already see the heart. So it's the first thing that ever comes to a person. I think this is so strong. When you think about what you're saying, I think this is the most beautiful way of explaining and trying to draw it, for us to understand.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that, Ana Claudia. But of course, see, when we have college professors in our lectures, you get to learn good stuff like this. So
this is not my specialty, definitely not. But it's one of the first things that we see in a baby when the baby is like super small, like weeks pregnant. The first thing you see is the heart. So I think this is super strong to imagine and connect what you're saying.
wow, I love that. Thank you so much. I learned something new. I didn't. That's why I miss having you in class because I always learn something from you. I love this. So true. So true. So look at that. So how about some more scientific evidence, right, for the power of the heart, right? It's the first thing that we see formed in a baby, and it's when that's also when that stops, that's the end of this existence. So if the heart has that much control over our existence, perhaps it has something else to offer us in how we shape this existence. So there's the invitation, right? And the next time we say or think something, we can even say, if I did this from the heart, would this produce illumination? And I would love to hear from any of you if you think there's one action that we could take from the heart that would not produce illumination. I would love to be educated, because as you can see with my education, I have a lot to learn. So I'm open to hearing that. I have not yet been able to find one act that is based from the heart that would produce illumination or produce this peace that we long for. Because this war that we have inside, think about it, inner peace is the lack of alignment between the head and the heart. This war we have inside is head, heart, head, heart, head, heart. Right? Our heart is really our soul, it's our spirit. And our mind, undisciplined, will attach us to the material realm. It's not our heart attached to that. It's our mind. It's these images in our mind of the material realm and what we produce through repetitive thoughts about that. And if we exist from a place of love and compassion, then that takes secondary. Then the heart is directing the mind. We just have to be careful who's driving here, right? If we allow the heart to rule the mind, we are in a much more peaceful place, because then we have peace inside. And I love, Raphael always says, peace on earth. I notice that whenever we have prayer requests, Raphael always says, peace on earth, peace on earth. And Raphael, that starts with us, right? We know this. But peace on earth starts when we have peace inside of ourselves. And peace inside of ourselves starts with aligning the head and the heart. And so, right, guys, thumbs up, right? I know, I love that you always say that. People are putting in prayer requests of all these different people. Raphael says world peace. I'm like, thank you. Somebody's thinking globally around here, right? I love that. So part of this is to have faith, right? We want to have illumination. We don't feel illuminated, so we kind of need to have some faith that we can get there, because there wouldn't be a path to get there if we were already there, right? We're talking about that journey, right? There's no journey without some expectation of a destination, right? So in order to get from here to there and to trust that we can get from here to there, we need faith, right? But we can't allow this faith to make us think, oh, that we're already done, right? That these stages of life along that journey, we have to experience them in order to teach us those values that will lead us to happiness. For example, we got to think about all of those times that we missed our appointment with love by being disappointed, and all those times we missed our appointment with light by disliking someone, and all of those times we had an opportunity to feel joy, but we repeatedly felt bad by resenting and feeling the same bad feeling over and over, right? These are, in each one of those, if we are willing to examine them from that left to right analytical process, we see, oh, I made these choices. These were the events. This led me here. And if I don't want to end there next time, I'll need to do something different. So it's, there's this, and I don't know if there's an equivalent saying in Brazil, but in America, we have this saying, the school of hard knocks, right? that you get a degree, a college degree, and getting, enough bad experiences will teach you the right way, right? And in reggae music, there's a, Buju Banton says, who feels it knows, right? And in Trinidad, they say, those who don't hear will feel, right? There's also all around the world, there's sayings of what common sense and good choices won't teach you, bad experiences and pain will, right? So this can be reduced. It cannot be eliminated, but it can be reduced if we're thoughtful about how we approach it, right? With a heart full of faith and a heart full of love, and with our intention to be the light. But that faith is not enough, right? We have to contact and maintain awareness, right, of our material nature. And it's not that we focus on it. We just have to be aware that we have it and not allow it to dominate. Because we walk around and say, oh, I'm a being of light. And yes, that would be true, but you still have to eat, and you still have to pay bills, and you still have to clean your house, and you still have to coexist with your family members who you may resent and may dislike. And so you still got to process all that stuff, but we just enter into right relationship with it, right? We have to have in our contact with this part of ourselves, we have to have a necessary awareness of what relationship it has. And the only purpose of it is to bring us to the light and help us see the light in others. That's it. It's not for us to figure out how to get more of it or to get better at it. Like, that's not the point. The point is for us to illuminate, right? And to do this, we have to resolve in some areas of our life. We have to break free from attachment to what we want and don't have. That is, so many of us have these attachments to things that we think we want. We spend days, weeks, months, years, lifetimes. In fact, 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, two books that are currently we're studying are about people who made miserable existences of their own lives and everyone around them because they were attached to something they wanted, did not have, and were unable to process that suffering in a way that produced life. It produced massive destruction. Right? Angie, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say how this connects with the talk from last week when we were talking about praying and how sometimes we ask certain things to God because those are things that we want, and if we don't get what we want, we might just have the wrong feelings inside of us. So I think it's a beautiful connection with what we learned in last week, the public meeting from the previous week.
Yes. I love that you do that, Andriata. You can see like the connection. I love that you do that. You can see the connection from topic to topic. I don't always see that. I love that. That's why I love us having this time together, because I don't have all the answers. I'm trying to figure this out with y'all. Trying to figure it out. I'm somewhere in one of these chains back here trying to figure out how to get to be the bird too, right? So I'm here with you. And I also, have, I'll confess the big attachment that I have that I don't have. I would love to be skinny. Like, I eat a lot. And so my body has informed the world that I'd like to eat a lot. I would love to have a skinny body. What the hell was that? How was that going to do me any good in the spiritual realm? How's it going to do me any good whatsoever on my transition time? What will do me good is to make sure that I get myself into a healthy condition. It's not what I'm thinking in my mind. I'm not like, ooh, I want to be so healthy. I'm like, no, I want to be cute. Right? And I know I'm not the only person that has this. I mean, there's multi-billion-dollar industries dedicated to folks who have the same little attachment problem that I have. I'm right here with you trying to figure it out. So all of us have something we want, but we don't have, and have an attachment there that would bear some examination, that we might release and break those attachments to find that place of light within us that is attached to nothing. Light is attached to nothing because its only job is to shine, period. Even darkness can't combat the light because light forces darkness to flee. They cannot coexist. As long as the light is burning, there is no darkness. We must remove. And then it's also learning to be in right relationship with what we actually do have, because there's many of us, have so much in our lives and we don't treat it well. And on top of that, we hold on to it so tight. We don't want to give anything. And then again, it's with a closed fist, we can't have open hands to give or receive or to love or to work. Like, we need these hands to love and work. And if we're holding onto our position so tightly, that stops us from our ability to love and work, which are also those paths. And then it's learning to be in right relationship with each other, right? To forgive. And that's another one of those words that, I don't know if people spend time to unpack, right? So means to have, right? Like, forbearance means you have bearance, right? To foretell means you have the ability to tell. To have like fortune means like you have like this tune, you're in tune with wealth, right? So to forgive means you have the ability to give. Like, you have this. And guess what? You can't give it like this. You give it with your arms open and ourselves open. Right? So it's learning to be in right relationships with others, and also to be in right relationships with the language that we use to describe our experience, and really get a deeper understanding of what we're saying to ourselves. Or when we're blessed to have these messages from the spirits, or these messages from these slides. I don't produce these slides. This isn't my like wisdom. this comes to me in Portuguese. I do my best to translate it and do my best to speak truth to it, but it's not like my wisdom, right? So I'm benefiting from this with you. So as we spend the time to unpack and deconstruct these messages, instead of just reading them and listening to them, that's when the light within us will open and illuminate, and it will attract good energies to help us with that. We just have to be willing to deal with. So where should we grow, right? We have to create some goals in life that are beyond solving common problems. Most of us, our goal in life, you can ask the average person, what's, what do what's your goal? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? The unless it's a geopolitical organization that's planning a 15 or 30-year geopolitical plan, most of us don't even know we're eating for dinner tomorrow, much less have a plan. So we have to have some goals that are beyond like common problems, and to have a understand that some of us have goals like that are resolving conflict, which is good. These are important, but like no matter how serious they are, they're just a small part of life. And really, if you're willing to really look at what a conflict is, 90% of the time we assume that a conflict is a disagreement. Did you know that if you take the time to examine that, 90% of the time conflicts are misunderstandings, not disagreements? And if we took the time to approach the conflict with, let me find out if we actually are understanding each other and we disagree, or if we actually agree and we just misunderstand each other because one or the other of us has not taken the time to actually deconstruct the words that we're using to describe what we think the actual problem is. Normally produced by a whole lot of mental gyrations that take a whole lot of energy away from connecting from the heart and saying, I just want to understand you. I just want to understand you. So if all of our goals are around solving this, like that's energy we could really be using somewhere else, right? And to view our lives holistically. And I love this picture because so many of us, we can't see the forest for the trees. We're so busy looking at the ground that we don't see that this is just, I love what Andre Luis says, in the introduction to Na Solar, that this life is a second. 100 years is 100 minutes, or I don't have all the math right, but he basically said that all the things that look so eternal to us are like pinpoints in the clock of eternity. But when we're so busy staring at the ground, for the love of God, we can't even see, the space that we're in, and our awareness can't be enlightened and illuminated because we're too stuck looking at the ground. It's stuff that doesn't even hurt. Our heart is not on the ground. Period. It is in our chest. That is one place we can physically start looking now. And if it's as or counterintuitive as it is to think about looking at life holistically from a large perspective, by looking within from the heart, ponder that because it's an absolutely true statement. So I know we're getting close to our time here. So the recommendation for us, right? And I love this animation, it's so beautiful. The recommendation is for us to initiate a process of self-illumination, right? And to do that is to spiritualize our gaze of the world. And when we spiritualize our gaze of the world, that's again looking at it if we think about, we're in this body, then we think about, the eternality of the soul. When we think about our planet, we know that it's one planet in an innumerable, uncountable, infinite universe, where there are billions and upon billions and countless universes that are far more number of millions of light years than our current science can imagine. It's vast. There's so much spaciousness. So part of our spiritualization and self-illumination is realizing the vast infinite nature. Like that first slide said, is looking at the remembering and embodying that infinite part of us that is within us, right? Remembering and embodying that infinite light that is already within us. And then I love this, to flood our consciousness with love. Just feel that for a minute. I would say think on that, but I rather would say feel that. Just feel that for a moment. Flooding your consciousness with love. We have the capacity to do that. There's a beautiful song. You can Google it. It's called Let the Love Wash Over Us. It's a beautiful song. It's a little chant. And it's a beautiful imagery that it brings up for us. But when we do this, then our ideas and our reasoning become energized, right? From these superior, these elevated feelings that come from our spirit. And they're endowed and they're involved and they're embodied with love and with wisdom. Because again, counterintuitive as it is, wisdom does not lie in the brain. Wisdom resides in the heart. Wisdom resides because knowledge resides in the brain, right? Knowledge is the information you accumulate. Wisdom is knowing how to use that knowledge, how to act on that knowledge in a way that produces the goal that you want. And if we're talking about the path to illumination, then a wise use of the knowledge we have is to produce that illumination, right? And so that's using love along with wisdom. And when we do that, we will achieve prosperity, and not material prosperity, but spiritual prosperity, which just means abundance, an abundance of tranquility in life, right? And all of the wealthy people on earth will tell you that they are not at peace. Wealth does not produce peace and tranquility. It just doesn't. So if that's what we're after, we should talk to some wealthy people and see if they actually have that. However, people that have spiritual wealth, if you look at the ascended souls, the elevated souls that live amongst us, there's everyday souls that are with us, and then there's the elevated souls that lived with us, the Mother Teresas and the Gandhis and the Martin Luther Kings, right? They had lives that had difficulty, but they were tranquil in the spaces of those difficulties, right? And that's the lesson for us. And we'll progress, right, in this our self-illumination when we act in the world with love and wisdom, right? We embody ourselves with love and wisdom, and we act in the world with love and wisdom. So to be the light for us, and I think this is just about the end here, we'd have just, I think, one more slide with the message, and then we'll go on to the passes, is to be the light, is to carry within ourselves only the good. Because, we carry stuff around. Isn't that something? We carry stuff around. I remember there's this story of a Zen Buddhist monk who, in this particular sect of Zen Buddhism, there are like Catholic priests were back in the day. They were not asexual. What's the word? Celibate. They're celibate. So a senior Zen monk and a junior one were walking, down the forest, and they see this beautiful woman, and they're getting ready to cross the river, and this beautiful woman asks to be carried across the river. So the senior monk thinks nothing of it. He picks her up, he carries her across the river, sets her down. They go their way, and they keep walking. And so 1 hour passes, 2 hour passes, 4 hour passes, and finally the junior monk says, senior teacher, I thought we weren't supposed to be touching women. And the older monk says, oh, I put that woman down by the side of the river. Are you still carrying her? So what are we carrying around, right? We carry within ourselves only the good. Our hands will be full of good, and we won't have any more room to carry anything that isn't. So let's fill up our bags with good thoughts. Let's fill up our heart with good feelings, because love, goodness, and peace are always good company, even if you're by yourself. Although we know we're never alone, if we are holding love, goodness, and peace, the company of the spirits we will attract will also be vibrating to that same frequency. And that will also be the case for us when we are with our loved ones, when we are doing our charity work, when we are working in the workplace, and when we are conducting ourselves out in the world. So this is our last slide, and this is from Living Spring. And it says, let us seek the light. A message, whatever its source may be, that leads us to the good or to the truth is always valuable and holy in essence. If we use it in our soul and in our daily experience, we may acquire the eternal talents of wisdom and love. They are a tool of salvation that has come from the infinite mercy of our Heavenly Father. Let us seek the light wherever it may be, and the darkness will never reach us. And that's from chapter 121 of Living Spring. So that is what we have time for. I wanted to, before we start the classes, just check and see if anyone had any thoughts or any questions you wanted to ask before we go on to the classes. So I invite everyone to get some water to be blessed by the good spirits that are with us. And Jerry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to thank you. This was a wonderful talk. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Good spirits are here. Okay, so then let's prepare for the passes then.
Let's prepare ourselves now for the moment of the passes and the blessing of our water. Place by your side a container with clean water to be blessed and magnetized. Dear brothers and sisters, no matter where you are in this moment, what difficulties you're facing, Jesus is always ready to come to our help. Place yourself now in a comfortable position, one that facilitates concentration and receptivity. Breathe slowly and calmly. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Fill your lungs with air and release slowly. Let the energy of tranquility and peace penetrate your lungs and circulate throughout your body. Your soul, in harmony with your body, feels peaceful and at peace. Let us think now about the passage of Jesus among us. In a beautiful and clear day, the golden rays of the sun illuminating the joyful landscape, multicolored flowers, bouncing, chirping birds fill the landscape with optimism. The news of the cures brought a crowd of needy people around Jesus. Suddenly, Jesus appears, calm and serene. His white tunic is light and long all the way up to his feet. At the sunset, all those who were sick and affected by different diseases were brought to him, and Jesus, laying his hand on each one, healed them, as narrated in the Gospel of Luke. Let's mentalize now Jesus approaching us in this moment, placing his friendly hands on top of your head. Feel the presence of this divine master right with you, feeling like a waterfall of pure and crystalline waters start to fall from his hands, coming from his love to bathe you, falling on your head, streaming down your shoulders, bathing your whole entire being, bringing you peace, serenity, and balance, cleaning all impurities and pacifying yourself. Feel these waters bathing you, cleansing and purifying. Breathe. Now think of Jesus as a sun right before you, his light, his warmth, embracing you, enveloping you. Feel the healing emerging, emanating from Christ towards you. He hears your prayers. Trust him. His love is infinite. He is always by your side, protecting, offering everything you need. Trust him. Feel and absorb all these magnificent healing energies coming from Jesus in this moment. His light surrounds and embraces you. Feel these energies running throughout your body. Feel yourself re-energized, strengthened, and at peace. Dear Lord Jesus, our divine friend, extend your generous hands, Lord, and transform these waters into remedies for our physical and spiritual ailments. Hold us, Jesus, in your peace. Extend your vibrations of love for the benefit of my home, dear Lord. May peace, health, tranquility reign here with my family. We give thanks to you, Jesus, and pray that you stay with us today and always. Thank you, God.
So, friends, that brings us to the end of our time together. And Giada, would you like to say the closing prayer for us, please?
For sure. So let's all raise our thoughts, giving thanks for the opportunity of being here tonight, being thankful to Cara for the beautiful talk, and to the good spirits that were with us. Let's ask Jesus, our mentors, to help us during this path to self-illumination, to help us to really look inside of ourselves, and to go step by step, building beautiful actions, working inside of ourselves, trying to every day be better and be kinder to our brothers and sisters. At the same moment, let's also ask the good spirits and God to be merciful to all those who are suffering, to all those who are suffering from illness, spiritual and mental illness. Let's ask God and the good spirits to also bless our houses, our families, and ask that this beautiful energy that we are all feeling right now, all these beautiful feelings from this talk from tonight, may continue inside of us, that we may keep these beautiful feelings for the rest of this week. Thank you. So be it.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you, Cara.
Al anochecer en Cafarnaúm, la casa de Pedro tan simple, casita común, repleta de paz, colmada de luz, oyendo palabras eternas del Maestro Jesús. Me imaginaré sentado allí entre Juan, Pedro, Santiago, Andrés y Leví, a orillas del lago de Genezaret, lanzando a las almas por siempre simientes de fe. Y yo me sentía un niño en aquel lugar, quién sabe Jesús.